Every man knows he's here for a reason, and his deepest fear is never finding it. David Data. Here's what most men never realize. You don't force your purpose. You feel it. You have to get aligned with it. And when you feel it and get aligned with it, you'll realize deep down inside who you really are. If you stay with me to the end, I'm going to give you a technique to help you find your purpose. So let's dive in. Here's the real problem. We're taught to find our purpose like a formula. Think harder, work harder, get a coach, make a plan, push, force, make your purpose happen. But the truth is that doesn't usually work. That almost never works. Matter of fact, it didn't work for me. It only made me sicker. It only caused me to become more unhappy and actually lose money, not make money, and become more stressed out. When your nervous system is scattered, even your best thinking will turn into fog. And I had tons of fog thinking too. Purpose doesn't land in the fog. Purpose doesn't land when you're scattered. Purpose doesn't land when you're confused. The truth is purpose lands when you stop chasing, when you stop forcing, when you stop trying to make it happen, and start tuning your energy to that version of you who already knows what it is. You don't attract your mission by effort. You attract it through alignment. And I'm going to get deeper into that right now. So I'm going to tell you a story. I used to be a hypnotherapist. And it really launched my whole career. It really was the beginning of my purpose. Now, how I became a hypnotherapist is very interesting. I was working in an office job, and for some reason, I had this internal calling to study hypnosis. There was just something about it, something magical, something beautiful, something that I thought, for some reason, I just had to do. So I looked it up online. I looked up all these hypnosis schools, and there was one right up the street, but then there was one almost 2 hours away, an hour and 45 minutes or so from work. And that one seemed to be the go-to school. It was deep. It had a year-long program. You got real credits in college. You had to go through clinic. The one, it was a few blocks away. It was like a weekend course. And you could keep taking these weekend courses over time, but it just didn't feel like the same thing. So for whatever reason, I knew I had to drive that hour and 45 minutes every day after work in heavy LA traffic. And I did it for almost a year. I'd go 3 or 4 days a week to this college. And every time I got out of work and started driving this college, I was happy. Yeah, it was hard work getting there, but I loved it. Every second of being in that school, there was just something about it. It called me. It was miraculous. And I couldn't wait to get there. Now, here's the interesting part. After about a year of practice, I graduated, and I realized in my mind, I didn't want to practice. I was like, I got my clinic hours in, I started to see clients, and I realized it triggered something inside of me. There was something inside of me that just went a little nuts and said, I can't do this. Matter of fact, one of my first clients was so much like me, surprise, had so many of my issues going on that it completely triggered me, and I decided I couldn't do this for a living, that it was just something I wanted to learn. I spent all that money just learning something, and I put it on the shelf. So for years, I didn't practice. I went through life fumbling and working odd jobs and trying to work in different office jobs and hating it, hating my life, waking up miserable, drinking tons of energy drinks just to get by. I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, but I just kept trying new things. And I reached this breaking point. I remember sitting there in my room. I was in Long Beach, California, and I was like thinking to myself, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be something else. I can't take this anymore. I need to pay the rent. I don't have much money. I'm in between jobs again. What am I going to do? So I got down on my knees literally and prayed. And I said, God, you got to help me out here. Show me an answer. And I got this literal message in my head that told me to go to this job site. And I hopped on the job site. I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to follow this message through. And I went to the section on the job site I was told to go to, and sitting right there was a job for a hypnotist. And I was kind of shocked. I was like, wow, hypnotists usually work for themselves. Why is there a job for a hypnotist? So I clicked on it, and it was a listing for a weight loss clinic that needed somebody to do weight loss, stop smoking, things like that. And I thought, this is kind of crazy. I have to call it, even though I said I'd never do this. So I called it up. And the first thing they said was, wow, we really need somebody. And I started telling them where I went to school. They said, that's a great school. And they were pretty much hiring me right on the spot, asking me if I could start this week. And I was like kind of shocked. And I was like, what is this about? I want to get away from this. This kind of almost made me super uncomfortable. So it did make me super uncomfortable. So I got off the phone, and I was really uncomfortable with the whole idea. And I was kind of pacing and bouncing around. And I thought to myself, I can't do this. So I called her back and said, I'm not going to do it. And I had another lead. It was a lead in the film industry. And I kept telling myself I wanted to be in the film industry. I want to be in the film industry. Looking back, that was just really the one for validation. I wanted to be somebody important. And I took this job in the film industry, working for a producer for no pay. Here I am, I'm needing to pay the rent. I'm working for a producer for no pay. And he's got me working 24 hours a day. He's a low budget filmmaker, hasn't had any real big hits. And I am working my ass off 24 hours a day to help him produce his next project. I even bring him in an investor for $100K, and he does start to help me pay my bills a little bit with that investment money. But in the end, I had to quit. I couldn't take it anymore. I was working all the time. I was miserable. I was unhappy. I was doing all kinds of things that just felt like it was going to go nowhere. And so finally, when I quit and walked away and said, okay, the film industry is not for me, and I really need money now, I decided to call this job back at the hypnosis center. I said, I just need work. And again, they hired me right on the spot. They were like, yeah, we really need you. Glad you called back. And so I went down there, and it turned out to be $15 an hour for 15 hours a week. It was nothing. And I was like, how am I going to survive on this? But I got to take it. So I took the job, and I ended up hating it. Now here, this is very important. I hated it more than any job I've ever had in my life. I went to it with a little disdain in my body, sick to my stomach. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to go home most days. I felt like my life was going nowhere. 2 weeks into the job, I'm driving home. I remember stopping at this gas station. I think it was a Shell gas station. I can remember the sign. And it was Wednesday, and I was feeling like utter crap. And I got gas, and I just thinking to myself, this is horrible. I got to figure something out. I went up to my room, right there, it's across the street. Went up to my place, laid down on my bed, and passed out at about 8 o'clock. I was just tired. I was exhausted. Couldn't take it anymore. I woke up the next day. I slept like a log, right? I was completely out of it. And then I woke up the next day completely light. And I was sitting there, and I'm like, why am I not upset anymore? And I started to look forward to going to work. And I said, well, why am I looking forward to going to this job? And I went to the job, and I loved it more than any job I'd ever had in my life. I couldn't wait to do the work. And I was sitting there at work, and I was thinking to myself at lunch, when I went to lunch, is this what it's like to love your work? And what the hell just happened to me? Well, long story short, I ended up becoming the top hypnotist in the place. Everybody wanted to work with me. I ended up almost buying the center at some point. They ended up opening a sales position. The salesperson quit about a month in, and I took her job too. So I had both jobs. And I said, I'm never quitting the hypnosis. I love it. And I ended up making more money in my first week in sales than I'd ever made in any job in my life. And I couldn't have seen that hat coming. So now here I am doing what I love, and I'm learning how to sell it and all the marketing for it, which led to me opening my own business later. I couldn't have seen all this coming. That all came from that one little prayer and that one little bit of surrender. Now, why did I get so sick? I've really thought about this over the years. Why did I get so sick and go into so much resistance? Because deep down inside, I was terrified to do that job because it was the thing I most wanted to do. You see, in my life, I'd always studied personal growth. I read personal growth books, books on consciousness, books on the mind. I wanted to learn to meditate when I was a little kid. I wanted to understand how all this worked. It was the thing I thought about all the time. It was my mission in life. But failing at it seemed like the worst possible thing that could ever happen to me in the world. I felt like an imposter those first 2 weeks. I felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. I felt like I was on the wrong track. But since I kept praying and asking for my mission, I got pushed into a corner. I got backed into a corner where I had no other choice. I was steered in the direction of that job years earlier, and I kept turning it down. I kept saying, I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I'll fail. But in the end, because I kept asking, because I kept praying, because I kept surrendering, all my other options were taken away. And sometimes it has to work that way. And in the end, I found my purpose. And that's why I'm sitting here right now. And what I want to do is I want you to ask you, What is it that you think about in your secret thoughts? If you're lacking a sense of purpose, you're lacking a sense of direction, you don't know what you want to do in life, it could be hidden in the very thing that scares you the most in this world. It could be hidden in the very thing that you think about in your secret thoughts. And I want to help you get in touch with that today. So if you're feeling lost or like this fire has gone dim inside of you, I want to invite you to comment below. I want you to comment below. What is it you think about in your secret thoughts? What is it that is holding you back? What is it, does it feel like when you try to find your purpose? What is it that you think about in your secret thoughts? What is it you think about inside? Because when you write all that stuff down in the share section, it really helps us all to grow. It helps everybody to learn. I'm always checking those comments out. Now, with that said, also remember to like, subscribe, and share. Let's continue on. So what is it that you can do today to start to get in touch with this part of you that has a greater mission? Because all of us do. We all have a mission we're here to give to the world. As a man, you have a mission to bring to the world. Even as a woman, you have a mission to bring to this world. But a man specifically, we really need to find that sense of purpose so we can wake up ready to seize the day. So here's your journaling assignment. It's a simple journaling assignment, but I want you to do it every day for a minimum of a week. I want you to write down the answer to these 3 questions, but I want you to contemplate it on it. I want you to think about it. I want you to read it before you go to bed, whatever you write down. What do I love doing when no one is watching? Think about that. Write that down. What is it you love doing when nobody's around that you could do for free? You could do all day long. It's your thing. Write that down. Write whatever comes to mind. Play with it. Write about it every day. Number 2, what secretly terrifies me, but also has a little bit of excitement inside? So it's what secretly terrifies you. It's in your secret thoughts. So dig into those deep secret thoughts. And now for question number 3. When I imagine doing this thing, if I knew I couldn't fail and I'd been doing it for 3 months or more, how would I feel about it? You're seeing the success coming in. You're seeing the abundance come in. How would you feel about it after 3 months or more of doing it? After a year of doing it? Now, I want you to take these questions and I want you to write them down in your journal. And I want you to write a paragraph about each one or whatever comes to mind every day for a week. I want you to reread it before you go to bed so it gets into your subconscious mind. And what you're going to find is new stuff's going to get sparked every day. Things are going to come up. You're going to have all kinds of stories and reasons you can't do this or can't do that, or I couldn't do this, or that'll never work. Throw that aside. Whatever's in there, just write it down. Get clear. Let's see what's in those secret thoughts. Let's put it on the page and get it out of your head into physical reality on the page. And let's learn about what's going on inside of you. I also want to invite you to comment whatever comes up for you over the week. Get in this video, comment again. Let's build a comment thread around this idea. And I bet that many of you are going to find some really interesting stuff. So you can really feel it when a man's on his purpose. His presence is clean. He doesn't need to explain. He doesn't need to talk over people. He knows who he is inside, and you can feel that from a distance. A man's capacity to live his truth, to give his gift fully and stand in the fire of life without turning away is his purpose. David Data. Without purpose, you drift. With it, you lead and you inspire. I want to invite you again to like, subscribe, and share, and definitely comment. I love those comments. I'll be in there checking them out. So that said, remember, only the courageous really live.